Those passengers lucky to be alive, but what if this happened to you? Would you know how to survive an emergency landing? Joining us now, Captain Tom Bunn, a former Air Force and commercial pilot with more than 3 decades of experience. He is also the author of SOAR, the Breakthrough Treatment for Fear of Flying. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So you're a former Air Force fighter pilot. I'm a former Navy fighter pilot.
Yes,
so we both have had a lot of training in emergency situations, how to get out safely, but most passengers don't have that kind of training.
That's right.
What should passengers know when they get on a plane?
And you know, when they listen to the flight attendants give the briefing, they often don't listen. But the first thing you do when you get on the plane, before the plane moves, look ahead and find the closest emergency exit ahead of you and the closest one behind you. Now, if there's a crash, there may be smoke. So count the number of seats between you and where you need to turn down the road to get out, both ahead of you and behind you, so that then if you need to get out of the plane, you can then do it without seeing anything. You can count the seats, take a left or right. The second thing you want to do is not act without the flight attendants first telling you to get out, because they may want to only get out on one side if there's a fire on the other side. And don't take anything with you. That slows you down. Yeah,
that's what you said about the flight attendants is so important, because they are very highly trained to handle these situations and to help people get out safely. You have also said that there's a difference between whether you're sitting in the aisle or sitting in the window as far as what you should do. Can you explain that?
Yes. If you're on the aisle, you're right there where you can get into the traffic flow to get out. But if you're on the window, then you're kind of blocked to get to the aisle. If you're athletic enough, just climb across the seats.
Now, in my military training, we did some underwater training. So, in other words, they'd dunk us in what was supposedly a crashed plane, and we'd have to figure out how to get out. And I saw it as very disoriented. This plane could have slid off in the water.
Oh, you bet.
So what should people know about if you end up in a water situation?
A water situation could be difficult, but hopefully the plane will float. Usually that's what happens when you hit the water gently, and that would give you time to get out the way. Well, you remember the Sullenberger situation. Planes floated and the passengers climbed out on the wing. If you get submerged, then you've got to just do whatever you can to get your head above water and head toward higher ground and get out of the plane.
Yeah, I remember what they taught us is what you mentioned about the smoke. You want to have your reference points. You want to basically have a good situational awareness of what's around you and know how many seats it is to the exit, know those ways out, because once you're upside down in the water, once you're in the water, people are going to be panicking and you really need to know what to do. But you've also talked about there are some things that you can do to kind of keep yourself settled and to stay, mentally in command if you end up in this kind of situation.
Well, one of the things I do with people who are afraid of flying is help them calm down. And there's a exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's nothing more than a way to play a game with yourself, to stop thinking about the problem that's keeping the anxiety hormones flowing, and think of things that are totally innocuous. So you find a point straight ahead, use your peripheral vision, and then make statements, 5 statements to start with, about what you see in your peripheral vision, such as I see a pen, I see a cell phone, I see, and then name a couple more things. Okay, then you switch to things you hear, name 5 things, then things that you touch, like I feel my foot on the floor, I feel something on my ear, like the earpiece, okay, and you name 5 things you see, 5 things you hear, 5 things you touch. Then you go to 4 of each, 3 of each, 2 of each, and 1 of each. It takes about 2 minutes. Now, since you're spending 2 minutes focusing on things which are definitely not going to produce stress hormones, guess what happens to the old hormones? They burn off. That gives you the freedom to focus your mind where you need to.
So these are some really good points you're making. What I was always taught is the first step in an emergency is to take a deep breath, basically get some oxygen to your brain and kind of just keep yourself calmed down. But these are all great points. Real quickly, Harrison Ford, he looked like he was in control when he was coming into land. I'm sure we have lots that we can talk about that offline, and we'll have more on that in the show. So thank you so much, Captain Bunn, for joining us today.